Hi, I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Welcome to a new episode of Thrive. I'm so excited to introduce you to my very special guest, Diane Sieg. She's a published author, an amazing speaker, a mindfulness coach, and a yoga teacher. Now, Diane and I have known each other for several years, but this is the first time that we're meeting in person. So come on in and enjoy our conversation. So Diane Sieg, I'm so excited to be with you today. You and I have known each other for several years, but this week was our first time to meet in person.
Yes.
So thank you for being with me today.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be back at IU.
Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit first to tell the audience about your career reinvention. You have been a nurse for many, many years, and now you are an amazing public speaker, you're a published author, you are a mindfulness coach, and a yoga teacher. Tell me about the evolution.
Well, I worked in the ER for 23 years and really did love it. I am a recovering adrenaline junkie.
I love that.
So I liked all the fast and the movement and the autonomy and every day being different, every moment being different often. But I've always been interested in health and fitness. I've been teaching aerobics and personal training and kickboxing, and I did all that in my younger years. So I was always interested in that realm as well. I taught nutrition, and I just came to this point where I really wanted to focus more on being more proactive and more preventative versus fixing people after they were broken.
Right.
And so I edged out of it, and you talked earlier today about taking small steps. So I went part-time in my ER nursing while I was doing other things, my own lifestyle counseling business, and starting to speak. And really when I wrote my first book was really kind of the turning point, Stop Living Life Like an Emergency, because we are. And I think what happens with a lot of us is we don't realize all the life experience that we have, all the skills that are very unique. So I took my life in the emergency room for 23 years and looking at what brought people there, and a lot of it was stress. Most of it was stress. And to see people come in for the same thing again and again and again because they really weren't making any changes. So I wanted, quite frankly, I wanted to help people live the life that I wanted to live with more balance and more purpose and just more passion. So that's what really was my segue. And again, small steps. Part-time, getting more and more into my speaking career, into writing, and when I wrote the first book, that was really kind of the turning point, and I decided I had to make a decision. And I left the emergency room, and now I'm full-time with speaking for the last 18 years, actually.
Amazing.
But the ER was a great place for stories.
I bet.
I miss my colleagues, and I do miss the patient experience, and I certainly can't make the stories up any better than the ones that I actually experience. Real life. You can't make it up.
So let's talk about calm to chaos, right? And I sit before
Chaos
you.
to calm.
Chaos to calm. Oh, see, there you go. Where's
Yes.
my brain? Chaos to calm. I am one of those classic type A personalities, right? I'm a planner. I'm thinking about the future. And I very consciously try to be more mindful. And it's a constant challenge. Every day is a new adventure for me. Help our audience think about that first baby step. What's the first thing you would tell me to do?
Well, first of all, just to back up for a moment,
Okay.
just to know what mindfulness is.
Yeah.
Because it's a buzzword that's around a lot right now, and I think some of us think we know what it is.
Right.
And all it means is being present. It's a very simple idea to be here now. I mean, right here, to be completely engaged and to notice your thoughts, your feelings, and sensations. But of course, what is our life like now? We're never here.
Right.
We're distracted constantly with cell phones and texts and emails and music and all these ideas and all these opportunities and all this information coming in at us. So this idea of presence is simple but not easy in our daily lives. So to be mindful, it's a decision, of course.
Right.
It's a decision. But to say I'm going to be more mindful would be like to say I'm going to get in shape and then never go to the gym.
So you've got to do it.
You've got to do
You've
something.
got to do it.
And so as I talked about this morning, we have these practices. You can do it a couple ways, and there are many practices.
Okay.
And what I really want you to know is that you don't have to go to a silent retreat for 7 days. You don't have to sit on a rock for 3 hours.
In the lotus position,
exactly.
Right?
You don't have to stand on your head.
Yeah.
The skills are actually a very small part of it. It's actually the structure and the support that we give ourselves. So there's meditation, there's deep breathing, there's yoga, of course, body scan, lots of formal practices. But what these practices give us is something for the brain to do, something for the brain to concentrate on. And that's what actually creates these new neural pathways for us when we focus on one thing. Well, this is quite a feat because we're never focusing on one thing.
Yeah, I know.
We're always multitasking
Absolutely.
and thinking about the next thing or thinking about where we've been.
Right.
So that's the practice, and the practice is to notice that. So to notice when your mind is thinking about lunch, to notice when you're thinking about that conversation you had with your husband this morning, to notice when you're hungry, to notice when you're bored. That's all, and just to be with it.
So do you quiet your brain? You know, what do you think about the physical or the emotional process? How would you start your day or a moment in your day to be more intentional?
So one way is just to notice and let go. The letting go meditation is one of the most popular ones because it's pretty easy. So to notice a thought right now. I'm hot. Let it go. I'm uncomfortable. Let it go. I'm hungry. Okay, let it go. It keeps bringing us back to the present moment. This morning, you know, we talked about thinking of something that's not serving you in your life. If you're angry or disappointed or you're fearful or you're worried, and we know all those things don't serve us, but we still keep thinking about them over and over again.
I love that. What isn't serving you? Again, you're giving yourself permission to say, let that go.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not working for me.
You know, Diane, I find it interesting because we have so much more power than we give ourselves the ability to utilize on a daily basis. We're very reactionary, right? And what I'm hearing is that being mindful and being more present and more intentional is something that we have control over every day.
It's actually the only thing we have control over.
Okay.
Everything else on the outside, everybody else and everything that is going on, we have no control over.
Yeah.
We try to fix it. We try to be in charge of it. We try to be attached to it. But the only thing we do have control over is our response to it and what we do with what happens to us. And I mean what we do with it right now. Right now in this moment, because of course the past has already happened, the future's not here yet, but this is where we spend all of our time, not here. And so that it is very empowering when you actually practice being present to whatever it is. And what happens is we avoid. We want to avoid discomfort. We want to avoid pain. We want to avoid things that are kind of icky, or we're hoping they'll go away. Whether it's a credit card bill or a conflict with our mother-in-law or with a colleague or with our boss. And what happens is the more what we resist persists. The more we avoid it, the more pain and suffering we have because we try to do all this dancing around it. But if we could just be with it, be with the feeling, the thought, the sensation, be with the reality of it and deal with it. And I know you're all about taking action. That's so much easier in the long run. But in the short run, we have to be willing to feel.
So today, and just so our audience knows too, you were a wonderful keynote today at the IU School of Nursing Triage Your Career Conference. Great experience. And you talked about 3 components of being mindful. Can you walk me through those 3?
And you're talking about the qualities, I
think,
the qualities.
Yes.
So what happens when we practice mindfulness, which is nothing more than being present, and we are present by focusing on one thing with our brain. That could be your deep breathing, that could be a letting go meditation, it could be any kind of movement, or just doing one thing at a time. Driving, driving without the radio and the phone and eating lunch and putting on mascara and all those things that we do when we're driving. So it's focusing on one thing at a time.
I have to tell you something funny that I think will resonate with you. You've heard of The Atlantic, right? The Atlantic magazine. Well, there was a hilarious video that The Atlantic produced about tabless Thursdays, and they talked about this concept of single tasking. We have a million tabs open on the computer at one time, and just like you said, we're putting on our mascara and eating and driving and texting at the same time, and it's just dangerous. So the research tells us that our brain can't handle multitasking anymore.
Right? It's a lie. It actually is a lie. The brain could never handle multitasking.
Oh,
but we're
okay.
like, well, I could get a lot more done if I could just do all these things. And the truth is, the brain can only do one thing at a time. So you may think you're driving and texting and putting on your mascara and eating your lunch, but you're really only doing one of those in the moment.
Which is a really good career tip, because I'll tell you, when someone comes in and they're interviewing for a position and I'm on the search team and they say, I'm a great multitasker, to me that's a red flag, right? I want someone who's going to have that opportunity to be more focused.
And we know when we are in the moment, we make better decisions. It doesn't take us long to do things. We're not in this high interrupt level, but we do it to ourselves. You know, you've been working on a report or working on a story or a paper you don't want to do. We're checking our email.
Oh yeah.
Or we're listening for, oh yeah, there's a text. I better get that text. We're doing this. We're doing that. So it's self-induced. You know, the world around us is so optional for us to do that.
And the technology enables it, right? Because the bing of the email, I'm like Pavlov's dog, you know, I think, oh, there's another email or a text or a tweet. So I've learned I can turn those off.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, but it takes some discipline.
It does.
And so mindfulness is simple and it's easy, but like any other practice, it takes some discipline. And so getting back to your question, when we practice mindfulness and we create these new neural pathways in our brain, it gives us better focus and the ability to connect and remember and create and problem solve. So it does a lot of really great things in our lives when we do this. And when we practice for as little as 5 minutes a day, it doesn't have to be hours a day. 5 minutes is enough.
And I thank you for saying that, right? It's liberated everyone, including me.
Absolutely. Well, I could tell you, is 30 better? Of course. But you know what?
Start someplace.
Do 30 every day.
Right.
And
better to do it than not do it.
Frequency is better than duration.
Okay.
So even 5 minutes. And you know, now they say, you know, take 1 minute, take a moment. 5 minutes, you know, I like to still stay with 5. And you can set your timer, and if you don't have 5 minutes, then talk to me, because we have to talk if you don't have your 5 minutes. But once you start practicing, you develop these certain qualities of mindfulness. And so what we talked about this morning, one is beginner's mind. And beginner's mind is just being open and curious and to the possibilities and treating things as if they're new, instead of saying 3 really dangerous words is, I know that. Because as soon as I say or think that, I'm off someplace else. I'm not here anymore. And if I stay with a beginner's mind and be receptive and curious and think, isn't that interesting? It keeps me in the present. So it doesn't matter if it's during an interview or working with a client or at a conference or anywhere, but being open, like children. You know, children want to hear the same stories every night because they know what's going to happen, but they still act like it's the first time.
And they have new ears every night.
Exactly.
And I love that curiosity. I think that's just such an important quality. And it kind of rejuvenates things for every moment.
It does, and it keeps you fresh, and it keeps you engaged. Instead of off someplace else. So that's one quality. The second one is, or another one, is letting go. You know, because we, you know, as you said earlier, we have no control. And when we hold on to something so tightly because it's good and we don't want it to be over, or because it was bad and we don't want to let go of that disappointment or that resentment or that anger about it, that's what causes our pain and suffering. So it's holding on to what we think we want, actually what causes our pain and suffering. When we can let go of attachment and outcome, then it sets us free. Well, my opinion, of course, is mindfulness should be in the center of well-being. Financial, physical, emotional, spiritual, everything else is around it, because if you're not aware of it, you can't change it. And so just being aware of, you know, and think about it. I'm mad, I'm resentful.
Your posture changes.
Exactly, I'm closed, I'm not open. When you're letting go, it's really a sense of freedom, and you allow something else to come in. So we let go of the way things used to be. All of us don't like change, especially if we don't get to choose it. Letting go the way we used to be. You know, we're not the same people anymore. So when we first got out of school, or first started our job, or even our second job, or even a year ago or 2 years ago in our current positions, we're not the same anymore. And we want to grow and expand. And it's always important, you know, this whole idea of reinventing, which I know that we talk about all the time. That's about letting go of who you were without your experience and your skill and your knowledge and your wisdom. And so we let go of that, and then we get to come into something new that maybe we didn't even know about before, by letting go of the old.
You know, I think of my 5-year-old niece, Maddie, and every young girl in this country who sings Let It Go from Frozen.
Yes.
But there's something to that,
There
right?
is.
There's something
Yes, there is.
about letting go. It's very cathartic, and it's an easy release. We have the ability to let it
Yes,
go.
we do. And it doesn't matter if it's a relationship or
Yeah.
a commitment or quite frankly, a job position
Right.
that isn't working.
That isn't working.
But if you're not mindful, if you're not aware of it, maybe you know you're unhappy, maybe you know you're struggling, but you can't really figure it out why.
Right.
It's almost a permission. It's
So
a permission.
letting go of what's not serving you well,
Yes.
to quote you.
Absolutely.
Lovely. Okay, so
Absolutely.
what's the other quality?
The other one is compassion, which is kindness. It's just simple kindness. And as a nurse and as a woman, we have compassion down for others most of the time.
Yeah.
We're always taking care of, we're always fixing, jumping in. We
Right.
take care of people's needs before they even know they have them. But it's the self-compassion. That's really being mindful. And not only knowing what you need, but then asking for it.
Right.
Asking for it. And giving yourself permission not to just wait, till it's your birthday or it's a holiday to take a break, to ask for help, to be okay where you're at if you're not happy or being fulfilled, if you're burned out or feeling like that you're just not, it's not the appropriate position for you anymore. And there's a lot of, and you know this, there's a lot of pressure on us to, oh gosh, I've been with this company for X
Right.
amount of years, or I went to school for all this time and I need to stay in here and
Right.
just tough it out.
Especially with particular professions like the medical industry, right? I'm a doctor,
Absolutely.
I'm a nurse, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm an accountant. When you
Yes.
have that very specialized profession, there's a lot of guilt with
Yes.
leaving, right? And considering something
Absolutely.
else.
Or even, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why everybody else seems to be okay? Why am I having such a hard time?
Right.
And one of the women today came up to me after my session and said, I feel vindicated because I'm hearing other nurses give the same kind of opinions about their job and where they're at and
Yeah.
what their needs are that I feel. So I feel like I'm okay.
That's great. That's
And
great.
that kind of compassion, of course, that's what these conferences, and that's what you
Yeah.
talk about as well with reigniting and reinventing yourself. It's okay to be where you are.
Right,
You
right.
don't have to be somebody else. You don't have to be somewhere else. It's okay to be right here, right now, and just to acknowledge it and to have compassion for yourself when you are there. And that's really big. And I just think that as nurses, as women, professional women, we need to remember that. We need to be reminded of
You
that.
said something this morning that really resonated with me. You said, help more, judge less, right? And I think that goes with self-compassion too.
Yes.
Let it go, right? And don't
Yes.
judge yourself. Don't be harsh and negative. There's enough of that out there, right?
Absolutely.
Just appreciate where you are and give up the guilt. I'm all about letting go of the guilt.
Absolutely. And when we're in what I call it in the mud, when we're in the mud and we're not really sure, what the next step is, we don't know what to do. It's kind of an uncomfortable feeling. At least it is for me because I always want to know exactly what's going to be happening. But that is such a rich, fertile time. Just to use the metaphor of the lotus coming out of the mud.
Yeah.
We have to go through the mud to get clear
Right.
before we're clear. And sometimes we're in the mud longer than we'd like to be. But instead of running from it or to pretending like we're not in the mud or trying to get out of it as fast as we can,
Yeah.
sometimes just being in the mud and that's what I love about mindfulness and being aware is that, okay, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna sit here with this discomfort and try to really realize what is it I'm so uncomfortable about? What am I afraid of?
Right.
What am I worried about? What am I shooting on myself about?
Right.
So that I'm not seeing clearly just yet, and I'm the willingness to
just
be
be.
comfortable with uncomfortableness.
Diane, I would love for you to empower our audience with a very specific first step, right? That baby step. You're an amazing mindfulness coach. So I'm your new client. I'm harried. I'm stressed. What's the first thing you encourage me to do?
So the first thing is just to acknowledge
Check.
that you're harried
I
and
got it.
stressed and exhausted
We're
and
in.
overwhelmed.
Okay.
And the second thing is to learn to breathe, because even though we all breathe, we don't take deep breaths and we aren't aware of our breathing. So when I worked in the ER, I would never say to patients, just relax, just relax. I know you've just lost your left arm. We're going to put it back on. Just relax. People,
doesn't
what does
work.
that mean?
Right.
Take a deep breath. We all know what that means. And it sounds so, oh yeah, sure, right, take a deep breath. But it's really powerful because a deep breath is a pause.
Yeah.
So a deep breath before you react to something, before you scream at that guy who just cut you off, before you yell on the phone at somebody because they're not understanding what you're trying to say, or before you even grab that donut because it's just an automatic response because you are feeling really stressed.
Yeah.
A deep breath. So one really simple mindfulness practice is just a series of deep breaths.
I love that. And I know this as a singer, right? Because your breath is your fuel for your song. But I forget.
Of course we do. We do forget because I say it's not hard to be mindful, it's hard to remember. Right? And especially when we need it most, when we're feeling stressed.
Yeah.
And the beauty of if you sit down and focus on your breathing for even 5 minutes, that helps you remember during the rest of the day when you have those stressful moments when you're feeling like, oh yeah, a deep breath. So take a deep breath. And I would like to say take 3 deep breaths, but one is a really great start.
Okay, excellent. Diane, thank you. What a joy. I'm so thrilled that we got to meet in person, and I know that our professional paths will cross again soon. Thank you for being so incredible.
Thank you, Caroline. My pleasure.